right, welcome back to the Indy Sooner and the JP and Trav show. It's your boy JP, and Trav is running just a little bit behind. He had a business meeting he's coming home from, so he'll be joining us here very, very shortly. Hey, we just want to very quickly say our hearts go out to the community of Uvalde, Texas, in the tragic and horrific shooting that did happen down there yesterday. We're not a show that takes any political stances. We are strictly sports, but at the same time, we care about life and human life. And being somebody that has a daughter and somebody that works at school with elementary kids specifically as well, no kid should have to go to the school fearing that something's going to happen to them. So, we just wanted to say that on the JP and Trav show. Our hearts are with you guys. Especially those that are in Oklahoma. I know that's close to home. So continue to be in prayer for that community and to see what we can do to affect change for sure. With that being said, guys, tonight we have a special guest, Under Armour All-American, classified as a five-star punter, Brady Braun down here from Indianapolis as well. Most of you guys know that I live in Indianapolis too. And so crazily enough, I find out OU signs a punter and that he's from Bishop Chatard High School, which I know very well. I grew up literally 5 minutes away from Bishop Chatard. And so I reached out to him like, yo, we should get you on the pod one time. And then lo and behold, we have another connection. Now, Indianapolis is a city of about 1 million people. So it's not guaranteed that you're going to have a connection off the bat. Okay. So crazily enough, I have an athlete at my school. Most of you guys know I'm an athletic director at a small Christian school. She played soccer and softball for us this year. Her boyfriend is one of Brady's closest friends. So we also have that connection, which is crazy too. We talked to each other a couple weeks ago at her senior night. He came out to a softball game, and we got to meet each other in person for the first time. But it's not about me. I'm gonna stop talking, hogging the mic. So Brady, how you feeling, man?
Great. The connection. No clue that you were the athletic director of Horizon. I think Adair mentioned to that one day. She goes, "Do you know JP? He's a huge Sooner fan." And I looked you up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, no, I've talked to him a little bit." So I had been trying to get out to one of her softball games there for like half the season, and every single time I seemed to have like a track meet or something come up. So I was finally able to leave track practice a little early to make it to her senior night. I was able to see you there too.
Yeah, no, it was dope to get you over there and dope to see he was dressed down in his OU gear. Wish I would have known he was coming. I probably would have wore something, but I was wearing my school's colors with pride for sure. But yeah, man, go ahead and let's tell the people in the chat that maybe don't know a lot about you because obviously Oklahoma Sooner Nation, as we've talked about off camera, they're very engaged. So even the randomest regular fan knows a lot about recruiting, and so a lot of the times it's Oklahoma, Texas, obviously national. You think California, Florida, but we don't get a lot of Indiana kids up in here.
No.
So for a fan that maybe doesn't know a ton about you, kind of talk about your football journey, where it started, when you loved football, how you decided to become a punter, and how you became really one of the top punters in the nation.
So I grew up. I classify myself from Indianapolis nowadays, but I grew up 100 miles north in a little farm town with about as many people as I could count to. And it's not a very high number. My graduating class at that old school would have been maybe just north of 100 kids. And that was like for the whole entire town. So it was a small town. I played football there, flag football. Loved it. And then we moved to tackle. They did the little stripes things to tell if you were allowed to carry the ball or not. And I kind of got told, hey, you're a little chubby. You're going to have to be on the offensive line. Kind of looked at that, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about playing offensive line for football. It was not per se my calling. So I kind of looked into how I could get away from being down in a three-point stance right away. We had no kicker and no punter. So even at the little age, I think we started tackle football at the age of, or in third grade, I don't remember what age I would have been at that. I started kicking for the team in fourth grade. So from fourth grade on, I started kicking and punting. I kind of picked it up from there so I can not play offensive line because I just didn't want to be on the O line. I didn't see myself as an O lineman. So I started working hard, and then I kicked and punted all the way for Winnemac up until my eighth grade year. I kicked and punted eighth grade year. And then my whole family had went to a boarding school, which is also in Indiana, so it was close by, so I felt comfortable. I went to it. It was called Culver Academies, and I kicked and punted for them for 2 years. I wasn't a huge fan, so I moved down with my dad to Indianapolis, where I went to Chittard, and then during that process, I had started going to all those camps. Big one being Cole's, which is ran through ESPN and Under Armour by a guy named Jamie Cole and Luke Radke, are like the top two from the camp. Top two guys that run that camp. They rank for ESPN and they get to choose for the Under Armour All-American game, which I was fortunate enough to be their second option for that game. I started going to those camps, would have been end of my freshman year. I went to my first one where I was ranked a 4.5-star punter. I'm going to stop ranking stars after that because I think the star system, if you look at it, love Jamie, love Luke, there's 30-something 5-star punters.
Yeah.
There's not 30-something kids that are a 5-star in any other position. There's barely 35 stars, I think, for any 2022, like the whole entire thing. I think there's 27. I don't know. So, but after that camp, I was ranked 5th in the nation. So I started after I started figuring out that they rank like 90% of the kids 5 stars and 4.5 stars to boost their ego. I started looking at the number. So I was ranked 5th in the nation after that first camp. At punting and kicking, I was unranked. So I kind of looked at that and I said, yeah, I think I should focus more on that one. Yeah. So I started focusing heavily on punting, but obviously at the high school level, you're not fortunate enough with 5 different guys that specialize in one or the other, and then you have options. So I had to stick with kicking and punting. So I kicked for Chittard also my junior year. Then going into my senior year, I was kind of told that they were looking at going somebody else for kicking. So I heavily focused on punting all throughout the off season. From the end of junior year to the off season until the beginning of senior year, I don't think I kicked a kickoff or field goal those whole months. I punted religiously, was punting. And then come up to the season, they told me they wanted me to kick. So I kicked the first 2 games before they finally introduced the next guy to replace me that they wanted to be the kicker in the first place, but they didn't feel comfortable going into the season. So from week 3 on, I got to be just a straight punter, which was the love of my life. I didn't have to worry about putting points on the board and everybody going, well, we need to see 3 or it's not worth anything. So I religiously got to focus on punting. And then I kept working with Jamie Cole and those guys and another coach I work with out of Chicago, Philip Filipovich, who also has perfected my punting craft. I credit my fundamentals to Philip, and I credit my notoriety and my exposure to Jamie and Luke. Those guys, those 3 together have shaped who I've become as a punter. Philip, I kept working with him, my punting ability for a long time. And then Luke and Jamie I finally started getting on their radar huge at the end of junior year, going into the summer of senior year. I skipped that part. I went to their last big camp, the National Scholarship Camp. I ended up getting ranked the 4th punter in the country off of that camp, which is like what I stick at now. But that camp is also where they have the All-American selection choice. So the auto bid from the camp is the highest charter, which was a Notre Dame punter commit. He was the highest charter by a couple points. He had a great all-around session. And then they do a competition style to weed out the rest for who should be the second selection. So I won the competition, which I rather would have won the competition over the auto bid. I feel like I got to play, that whole pressure situation. I had to step up to the plate. I had to swing with every swing could have been my last one. That competition, any of those guys could have won the competition, but I was just the one that stepped up under pressure and kicked the ball the furthest and hit it the highest. So I was blessed with the All-American spot to be a punter, but then there was only one of us that ended up going to the game. They made the other team's kicker do both. Bryce did not attend the Under Armour game, so I call myself the only Under Armour All-American punter because they made Alex do both, but he'll call himself a kicker, so I get to be the title of the only punter there. And then through senior year, I punted, and then OU came on my radar. Would have been in January, so they were late on the radar.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like you guys were, or they were very early on with you in recruiting, and things kind of switched and changed once Venables got in there and he brought along. His name is escaping me right now, but who was your primary recruiter?
Nunez, Jay Nunez.
He was at Eastern Michigan, right?
Yes, he was at Eastern. I was talking to him at Eastern Michigan, and then he came over. We just kept that relationship going.
Yeah. Now what? Something that some people know, and it's unique to kind of obviously my Twitter name, and even you now kind of in your own respect being an Indiana boy that's going to Sooner land. We can both respect punters and kickers, right? Indianapolis wise, we have probably the most branded punter in the history of football, and Pat McAfee, right? And so you're in Indianapolis, like you don't look at punters as a, it's for the brand, that, right? So
punters, he's one of my probably top 3 favorite punters to exist. Purely his skill was backed up with a great personality behind it.
And it's serving him obviously very well. And so just to say, while some people don't see punting as, how do I put this in a good way? Some people just see punting as, they're on the team, right? But, for those of us in Indianapolis, like we know how important it is to have a great punter because we had one forever. And even at OU, we have a history of great punters. We have a punter that's still in the league right now, Tress Way, right, with the Washington Commanders. I was about to say football team, but with the Washington Commanders, been in the league a decade, made millions of dollars punting, right? We've had good punters like Austin Sieber, who became a kicker, obviously, but was a great punter as well. And now, obviously, we have our boy Michael Turk, who's going to go to the league very soon, and is probably by most people's accounts the best punter in America. So, we take our punting very seriously as Sooner Nation too. So, while others may say, what about that punting kid? Trust me when I say Sooner Nation, especially with the way Michael Turk has, had his personality kind of take over the last year and a half for Sooner Nation. There's definitely a niche there for you. So I'm excited for you, bro, and what's going to come. Tell me a little bit about when you visited Oklahoma and what really sold you on it and say, I'm going to be a Sooner.
It was very last minute. I was sitting in school, I think, on Tuesday, and Nunez just calls me in the middle of class, and I'm like, can I run to the bathroom? So I ran into the guidance counselor. And I said, this is a call from a coach. I got to take it. So I'm talking to Nunez, and he goes, yeah, so the dead period's about to start in roughly, this Sunday. He goes, so I can get you out on a visit if you can make it Friday. And it's Tuesday. I go, let me see what happens. I call my dad, and he goes, yeah, we'll be there. So we found flights as fast as we could, and we made it out there in a couple of days. We got there Friday, and just the moment I stepped on campus, you walk in that facility, and that Jordan logo is just right in front of your face. And there's just something about the Jordan logo that 5 schools in the nation have it, Oklahoma being the odd one out. I wouldn't say the odd one out. I guess Florida's there too. But the others seem to be more basketball-esque schools. So Oklahoma having that Jordan logo was definitely a little bit of a draw. But I walked in the facility, and just the way those guys greeted me, just made me feel a little bit more at home than any of the schools I visited.
Mm.
Then obviously Nunez wasn't there for a whole lot of time before I came down, so they brought Lucas along with us, who's been there for a minute, who kind of helped us go through the facilities. He's been there since I think Baker was the quarterback when he first stepped on campus. So
Mm-hmm.
he knew the facilities in and out and was a great guy to talk to. And I think Lucas helped seal the deal too, just how the way he talked about all the guys he's been around. He's been around so many different starting quarterbacks. He's been around both coaches. The way he just talked about Venables and the way he talked about everybody on the team, he sold that how family oriented that team felt, just how well he talked about it and going through the facilities, amazing facilities, and just meeting all the people that are going to be impacting my life there, like the nutritionists and all that. But what sold it at the end was a little conversation with Coach Venables. That we went back to his office. That's what finished the visit. And that conversation with Venables, I think, is what completely just made me realize that Oklahoma is where that was my college.
Mm. Can you and if not, that's okay. But can you maybe go into a little bit of detail about just some of your conversation with Coach Venable, some of the things he may have said that really had you sold? Because Sooner Nation is very gung ho on Brent. Obviously, he's a guy that's been here before. He was here for I think 10 years under Bob Stoops, and then he left, had great success at Clemson, and now he's back as the head ball coach. And he's somebody that you say his name, you think Oklahoma because of what he's done here, and he just exudes that. So I know that a lot of fans would love to hear maybe something that he said that swayed you, if that's okay.
I won't go into great detail about some of it, but I think the main attraction was, well, he was a defensive coordinator at Clemson. Defensive coaches are going to love that punter. Defensive coaches love it when the defense has more room of the field to make a stop. So I think that was a big draw too, knowing that he's probably going to end up loving a punter. So a head coach that's going to love the punter. Any punter that's not getting yelled at by a head coach will love that. But the conversation he had, I think the way he presented his mission for each player that steps on campus, whether you were a 5-star recruit walking on campus or whether you were a walk-on coming onto the team, the way he mentioned how his goal is to treat players, how each person will be treated walking in and out of the facility each day, and his goal for like a player through their 3 to 5 years that they're on the team. Just the drive he had in shaping each guy to enjoy college, because college, it's the last thing before you step into the huge entire world and you have every single responsibility on yourself. And just the way of like shaping him into a better man before he steps into whatever the career choice that they make, whether it be going to the NFL, whether it be going into the business world or certain different choices. Yeah. And he mentioned during that talk, that's when I first got introduced to Soul Mission.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Soul Mission, I think, was actually just something that really sparked my interest right away when I heard it. Just hearing Soul Mission and everything that it brings to the table. And it like totally rounded out what BV was telling me and everything that his goals were for the team. Soul Mission rounded it out. It really put into action what he was talking about to me.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's awesome. I know that a lot of OU fans love Soul Mission and everything that it stands for. A fan favorite around OU, Caleb Kelly, is on that staff. And just to be seeing some of the things that they've been doing is super exciting. So that's awesome to hear that that's one of the things that swayed you. Well, it looks like we have our boy Trav on here with us. Trav, how you feeling, man?
Man, I'm doing well. Sorry, I'm a little late. But I couldn't miss Brady, so I wanted to make sure that I popped in. So I appreciate you coming on with us, Brady.
I appreciate having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll go back as I do always with my film reviews, and I'll rewatch the first 20 minutes to get caught up on everything. But No, I really do appreciate you guys or you having me on. Obviously, I'm not often, but hey, everybody in the chat, everything like that. So let's get it going.
Yes, sir. So, now we've been talking about, just some of Brady's experience and whatnot, and how he got connected with OU. Obviously, as somebody that is in Indiana, obviously OU's a national brand, but you don't always know a ton about OU. Only reason I do is because my family is all from Oklahoma. My sister runs track there right now, so I knew he knew a ton about it. But just Brady's been filling us in on what exactly swayed him to OU. And one thing that we kind of acknowledge is that Indianapolis, in particular, and Oklahoma do have an affinity for punters. Indianapolis, with Pat McAfee, who we all know is probably the most well-known punter in NFL history at this point, just because of
Yeah.
what he's done. But
So obviously, I keep up with heavily with recruiting and whatnot. I've always noticed the Coles kicking kind of section of recruiting. Coming up, a lot of people these days, they get involved in 7-on-7. I mean, 7-on-7 is rampant these days, right? So you got players at all positions going out for these 7-on-7 teams. That's why I think we're seeing so many good young receivers in the league right now, is because these guys have been doing this and running routes since they could walk, basically.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through a little bit of what your process was like? Because obviously you got 7th and 8th graders starting 7-on-7, and that kind of starts their recruiting process because a lot of media types and recruiting types are at those type of tournaments. What is the process like to become a highly coveted specialist like you are? What does that process look like? How early in the process do you get started and trying to get noticed? How did you get noticed initially? And then how do you approach and attack the recruiting process?
So with Coles, I started doing Coles after my at the end of my freshman year, but some of the camps I've went to, the youngest kids there have been 6th or 7th graders going to those showcase camps. I don't highly suggest showing up to a showcase camp in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade because you're not really doing much for yourself. I think freshman or sophomore year, I think freshman year is the best time to show up to a showcase camp for kicking and punting and long snapping included. The best thing to do for those first years is just perfecting your craft, because those guys can go out to 7-on-7. 7-on-7 is probably the best for them to get an actual in-game rep. But for us, it's perfecting that craft. So when we go back to when we go to a showcase camp, that we just go back to the knowledge we have. And I just worked on my craft all the way from when I was in like the 4th or 5th grade. Just worked on punting all the way up till I started feeling comfortable to going to those showcase camps. And then I went to those and started punting at those. I did all 3 phases of the game. So I did kicking, I did field goals, kickoffs, and punting originally at those camps. And then I started excelling at punting and realized that I was going to probably get recruited for punting and not for the other 2. So that's kind of when I fizzled those out. But just going to those Coles showcase camps is what I did. I went to the winter one, and then I'd go to the winter. There's 2 for the winter, and then there's one for the spring and one for the summer. Going to those 4 are the key ones to get you noticed. Because a lot of colleges I talk to, they really trust Jamie Cole and they trust Luke Radke and what they say about each guy. Because they'll call Jamie and Luke and ask them about certain guys, and Jamie and Luke will have their opinion. And they'll look at the rankings. They don't look at the stars. The stars isn't the biggest importance. They look at the ranking, and then they start watching film on those guys. We'll post films on our Twitters. We film in our profile of how we punt. So then they start looking at that. That's kind of what gets us noticed, is going to those camps, and then Jamie and Luke evaluating us and deciding us where to rank us amongst. Because I think the showcase camp, the biggest one is the scholarship camp, which has 600 plus, 700 plus kickers, punters go to. So there's a lot of kids there for them to rank us against. So they have a wide pool of talent to choose from. So being at the top of that kind of shows your ability.
Right. And as far as that, goes, you talk about the Coles kicking camp, you see 6th and 7th graders there, 8th graders, you got there ready your freshman year. Is that an invite-only type situation? Is that people just traveling and signing up and then trying to impress people? Is there any type of outreach on their part to go out and find the best kickers in the country? Or are they pretty much relying on you guys to make that initial push?
So Coles, they do have the National Scholarship Camp is an invite only, and then the National Underclassmen Challenge, which takes place in January, is also an invite only. And I don't believe they really go out and market themselves a ton because their name has gotten to the point of such high esteem within our kicking community that like you go to them at this point. You go to them and you get the invite from camps that you go to. Once you go to a camp, that's when they decide whether you should be getting an invite to those other camps. But like their name has reached such a high point that people go and find them at this point. I went and found them, and then I think all my buddies I talked to, there's a huge group chat of us that are all across the country. We went and found Coles. Coles didn't come to us. So I think that kind of makes it a little bit more. Coles isn't trying to nitpick and say, yeah, this is who we think should be here. We are all going to Coles. We're all getting ranked by Coles because we want to be.
Well, first I've got to comment on. So we're used to, especially us that really keep up with recruiting a lot. We hear about these group chats of elite recruits throughout the country. David Stone, notably, is in one with a lot of the Southeast recruits that OU is after. A lot of the IMG guys, everything like that. It is fascinating to me that you are in an elite kicking group chat. That's incredible to me.
It's like 60-something kids across the country, all throughout different points, and I think out of the 60, I think maybe like 45 or 50 of us are going Division I.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I got two questions that should be pretty easy to answer. Not a ton of thought going into them. First, what is the longest field goal you have ever seen made at one of these camps? And what is the longest punt you have ever seen at one of these camps? We like a little distance around here. Let's see what you got.
The field goal would be either Alex Bacchetta or Alex McPherson. I believe I watched them both try and attempt a 70-yarder. I think one of them might have made the 70-yarder. I know one of them made a 65. I think 70 might have been made. And then the longest punt, it's 70's getting close to – I'm only doing this in air from line of scrimmage like it'd be counted in a game. We don't look at roll. That's pure luck and chance. So
yeah, that's rookie shit right there.
That's pure luck and chance. We don't count that.
Yeah.
So I know mine was 64 at the All-American for an All-American spot. I don't recall anything being longer. I may have seen someone hit like a 65 or 70 with a ton of backwind at one camp.
So Brady, I gotta let you know that whole luck and chance thing. We call that Sooner magic in Norman. So just so you know, when that stuff happens, you got to reference it as Sooner magic now. You can't just say it is luck and chance. So
if it's on my side, I'll take it.
Hey, there you go. I like it. So I got some questions in. I'll toss it back to Indy on this.
Hey, Trav, real quick. One of the coolest things, I don't know if you saw it, but one of the coolest things that I saw from Brady's signing day was there's a picture of him, and I don't know if it was your whole football team or what, but of all these kids at Vista Chatard, and you got about 75% of them throwing horns down. Now, I'm sure that a good chunk of them probably are, they somewhat know what it means. They know what this means and whatnot. But for most of them, it's probably just, oh yeah, I'll do it for you, Brady. But
so I committed, and like right away, I committed. The next day I show up to school, and like everybody's either looking at me and they're yelling "Boomer" or they're all going "Horns down." The
love
next
that.
day I show up to school. So they all knew what it meant. They all knew what it meant.
Oh, that makes a guy from Indianapolis who's a Sooner. That makes my heart proud that we have kids in Indianapolis that are throwing horns down because the boys down south, as you'll find out very quickly, we don't like them. So hey, let's get into a little bit of a question time. And Trav, again, I know thanks for hopping on. I know you're at a little bit of a dinner, as we can hear, but you being willing to come on is huge.
Well, I'm hiding in like a back hallway now from the staff, so hopefully my background noise has gotten a little bit better since the first part of the pod when I hopped on. So hopefully it's gotten a little better.
If we can ask just for the chat, what are we dining on tonight? What are we dining on?
We're doing a little Caribbean Jamaican food. Yeah, we down here at Cicero's in Tulsa. I know, and they're not paying me, so I really shouldn't be plugging them. That's something I got to get used to with the radio stuff. I'm not allowed to say things unless they're paying us. So, delicious spot right downtown, right around the corner from the office. So, it's a fun spot. We've got a little business thing going on. We're about to hopefully Friday. Y'all will have to pay attention to the Audience Rent Twitter account because it's bubbling. I'll put it that way. It's about to blow.
That sounds good. Well, Brady, when you get down to Oklahoma and you get some time, you'll have to go and try some of Trav's restaurants in Tulsa, or maybe you can bring a little something to you down there because he can cook now. He knows what he's doing.
That's right, I can, absolutely. And that's one thing recruits often forget. They're like, oh man, like David Stone hit me up the other day. Hey man, I'm gonna come by the restaurants, let's get a flick. I'm like, dog, like I know I'm heavy OU, but I'm like 2 hours away from Norman, so I'm not exactly close. So we'll get it worked out though. No doubt about it.
All right, so let's get into some of these questions that we have here now. I know we got a lot of people in the chat that are cool. Now we do have what looks to be your good friend in here talking a lot. He's under the name Pot Stickers right now. So let's address this right here. He says that you got benched one game because you talked back to the let's hear what happened.
That is like one of the big reasons I stopped kicking. Doing kickoffs is he asked me to do a nice little pooch kick. He asked me to do a little pooch kick. I pooched it perfectly like he asked. I don't know why he wanted me to pooch it to the most athletic kid on the team that we most definitely could not tackle. Mm-hmm. And I got returned really, really far. And he came up to me and he goes, "Why didn't you do what I asked?" And I just kind of looked at him and I was like, "I did exactly what you asked. Like, I don't know what you expected the outcome to be." So he they didn't expect anybody to say that. They didn't expect anybody to speak actually to them. Mm-hmm. They've been used to everybody just kind of going, yeah, and nodding their head. But I wasn't going to like stand there with him telling me I didn't, like blaming me of failing at my job. Like, okay, if he told me that it didn't turn out well, I've been like, yeah, it didn't. But when he told me I failed to do what he asked, I was like, yeah, I don't know, I did that.
So that begs the question. Are you familiar with the Oklahoma-Georgia game just a few years back in the playoff that went to overtime?
No, I can't say I am.
Okay. Well, you're a young cat. You're a young cat. So Lincoln Riley famously squib kicked and gave up all momentum, and everybody's thinking, squib kick will trigger some people in the chat. I'm sure that I'm sending some people back to therapy. But what's your opinion on squib kicks from a strategic standpoint? Do you like kicking them? Do you think there's a lot of value, or do you just want to put it deep?
I think running out of clockwise, squib kicks can be amazing. And if it's a team you can't seem to tackle, Squib kids can be amazing because a lot of times they won't put a good athletic kid in the second line where the squib's going to end up. But with the athletes we have at OU, I don't see why you wouldn't put the ball deep every time.
Amen. Deep every time. Deep every time.
If you have the athletes, I don't see why you would not let the athletes be athletes.
Well, if you're in the playoff, you would assume that you would have the athletes, right? I mean, you got to the playoff, you didn't have a bunch of bums walking around.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that's really what we want to know, in the chat is how you feel about squib kicks, because we feel a certain type of way. So
we could probably do a whole podcast on just that squib kick, Brady. Just so you know, like the fact that I'm not mad at Trav because I know why he brought it up, but it hurts me that he did bring that game up because that's a moment in time for OU fans that you look back and it hurts because we should have won the national championship that year. That was Baker's senior year.
Oh yeah.
And we were up 14 at half and just fell apart. And a lot of people believe that the squib kick is what started that. So just some background for you there. Here's another question, and there's two questions on this. It seems like a lot of people in the chat want to know what you think about our current punter, Michael Turk.
So the first time I actually got to meet Turk was at the spring game. On the sideline, I got to talk to him a little bit between his warm-ups. Great guy. Very driven guy. I'm excited actually to get to learn behind him for the year that he's there. I think that was another honestly huge, probably the biggest draw about OU versus other schools. Other schools have each thing, but I think sitting a year behind Turk would have been better than going and starting anywhere else. I sat down with my dad. I think me and my dad had this conversation for hours, probably a full day if you counted the hours, about how good it would be to sit behind Turk for a year. And I think just to pick up everything that Turk has learned in his time in college, both being at Arizona State versus being at OU, I think just Turk is a great guy. I think he's probably the best person I could sit behind for a year. Just after that one conversation I had with him, it was quite obvious that there's nobody better to learn from probably than him.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I'll let Trav speak to this after I say what I'm about to say. But not only like you said as a punter, but just as a man, he's somebody that even I respect. My sister's gotten to do a video with him on his Hang Time YouTube channel. And she says, hey, everything he says on YouTube, because he's very outspoken about his faith. He was like, he's the same guy off of it, which is amazing, first of all. But then obviously you look on the field and, that's why he's a fan favorite, not only because he's big on YouTube and has a great personality, but he can kick the heck out of the ball. I remember being at the Iowa State game, and unfortunately in the first half we punted a ton, but I was 5 rows up with my boy Tattoo Baker, who's been in the chat. Travis was, he was getting the VIP treatment. He was on the field with a couple of recruits. But Turk had one punt in that game that I think it was like 60, 65 yards in the air. And it's just like the way you can tell that he takes care of his craft and that he really works at it. And it's not just, something I'm just going to go out there and kick a ball, that he literally, wants to be one of the best in the game at it. And so for you, I think, like you said, man, that is absolutely right, that it is going to be a great learning experience for you just to sit behind him for a year. And yeah, I think it'll be great. Trav, you got anything on that tilt, man?
Man, what's funny is anytime we talk about punting at OU, I go back to my Union Redskin alumni brother in Tress Way that was recently on the Anything OU podcast with those boys. I went to Union with that guy, and he started out, kicking field goals and doing everything, doing all three. And then he became, a Pro Bowl punter and really just pretty much the only good player Washington has had for like a decade is what it feels like. And that dude gets a lot of work on that team because they are always punting. But I do remember one Bedlam game where he pinned them inside the 5 probably, I don't know, 4 times maybe. I mean, he was the MVP of the game. I remember watching it, and I was down low, and I was excited. I was like, man, this is going to be a wild game, man. Our defense is going to dominate, or blah, blah, blah. And all I could think of after the game was, God, Tress he was dominant. He was the difference in the game. Have you had any games like that where you were like, man, like I kind of took over this game from a position that traditionally doesn't really take over a game? A lot of people think, oh, the punter, he gets out there if things go wrong. They typically do not want to see you. They want either, the offense to pick it up, or even on 4th down, if it's 4th and 1 and you've got a good offensive line, you got a good running back, and they opt to punt, then they're booing, you're running out, it can be a lot of negativity at the position. But, those days where you can really flex on them and you're dropping them, right inside the 5 and everything like that. Have you had a game like that in your career that you just sat there and thought, man, I was on one today?
I haven't ever had like a game where I felt like I took over the game and I'm the only reason we won. But I think there was a huge game where I think I was like the nail in the coffin. I was the deciding factor. Like it's sitting 50-50 in the middle, and I was able to be the 51% to take us to the win. Would have been regionals my junior year, where we were. I don't remember what my average was that game. I had 4 punts. But what it really came down to was there was minute 38 on the clock, I think, and we were about to do a 35-yard punt. The ball was on the 35-yard line, and our coach looks at me and he goes, "Just pin him in there." And it's 4th down. He looks at me and goes, "Do a 35-yard punt." I punted the ball, and it perfectly stops on the 1-yard line with like a minute 20 left in the regional game. We're only up by 5. So I think, and that kind of it cuts down your playbook when you have half a yard to spare. And you can't really cut down your playbook when you have only have little under 90 seconds to play with. So I think that punt right there, I think, is what completely ended the game for regionals. And I think that's the punt I look back on and I'm like, yeah, that punt, that's probably one of my best punts in my high school career as like a persuasive factor, because Chittard, we either won games dominantly or my punting didn't matter at all. Like the games weren't going to be decided. Yeah. But that game there, my punting, I think, is what pushed us over the edge.
You want to know that'll cut down a playbook. Rush 3, drop 8. That'll cut down a playbook. I'm curious, do you golf?
Oh, I have been wanting to get into golf, and Ian's going to text that in the chat like here in a few seconds. I've been wanting to get into golf here for a while. I just have never I can't bring myself to buy clubs because I've never gotten into the hobby. I can't bring myself to actually buy the clubs, but I've been wanting to golf for so long now, but no, I haven't gotten into it yet.
We need to get you that golf club and NIL deal. I'll tell you what. Do they have like a Top Golf or anything anywhere close to you guys?
I do hit Top Golf a lot. It's probably my favorite thing when my mom comes down to Indy to visit with some family. We go to
I'm gonna need to see video of that. I'm gonna need to see video access to swing. The reason I ask is because anytime I see a really good punter, I see, it reminds me a lot about golf. This guy's hitting it. He needs to stop it at a certain spot. It needs to be, the loft's got to be right. Everything, like, it reminds me a ton of somebody just hitting a nice little wedge in there and getting it to check up. So that's what I always wonder is, if the punter plays golf, because there's so many similarities to your foot's the club, you're trying to get it to check up, you're trying to get you to go an exact distance and an exact direction. So I think you ought to pick up golf. We'll work on that. We'll work on that. So you said all mental. What do you have any superstitions? I realize the position can get a little superstitious at times? Do you tie your laces a certain way? Do you wear a certain colored shoe?
Well,
Do you put eye black over on one side of the face? What are you thinking?
this past season, my senior season, I wore the same pair of socks. I only wore these socks on game day. I wore them in my cleats, and every time I even do this in real life, my left shoe will always go on before my right shoe. I live that way. Left shoe will always go on before right shoe, and that's how I put my cleats on before games too. And my only superstition, my only superstition really during games is to not remember that I'm playing a game. I like I just try not to think about, because if I start thinking about a game, you start thinking about, man, there's a little bit of pressure added to this, but I kind of just lose myself. I start thinking, I just start talking on the sideline. And then once it hits third down, I start really then thinking about my punting fundamental. That's my only superstition is forget that I'm playing football and just think about it as punting in the backyard with my dad.
So do you listen to a little Eminem, lose yourself? I see you
A
dropping
lot
that
of
lyric.
a lot of country. Just I try to calm myself down.
I got you. Who's your country artist you go to right now?
Right now, wow, I haven't listened to it because I haven't been out in a game yet. My favorite, I do like to go to a little Morgan Wallen on the side because right now it's been a little bit more upbeat country. But my go back would have to be my go back in time. My favorite all time would be Blake Shelton.
Okay. Hey, you know what? It's good. You're going to the right part of the country. There's no doubt about that.
What to say? He's Oklahoman.
Coming to the right part of the country. So we'll have to get a little Brady a Brady Blake collab going on. You much of a karaoke guy? You do much singing?
Oh no.
Is that a no? See, you're pretty passionate about that no. Does that mean you tried and it went horribly, or you just haven't tried?
Singing.
So what?
I avoid singing at all costs because you're just not going to get me to karaoke. I only karaoke in the car with my homies when we're singing "Party in the USA" down the highway.
Oh no! We're gonna cut that. Indy, hop on that, JP. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. We'll hop back into the questions.
Yeah, your boy Ian is coming in on you on the chat, man. He broke his driver. You know, he's talking about
his driver was hanging on by a thread, and we started doing Happy Gilmore's.
He said one of your superstitions is you have to eat a cheeseburger for a meal. You can't have anything else.
I did. My best punting does come after I eat a bacon cheeseburger. My best punting comes after that. If I eat a bacon cheeseburger before a game, I punt, or before anything. Best competitions I've ever done, bacon cheeseburger. Best games I've played, bacon cheeseburger.
Okay, nice. So you're gonna have to go to Whataburger then when you're out
Brahms.
Or Brahms. One of those two.
When I was down there, I tried onion burger was what I tried when I was down there for the spring game. Onion burger.
Yeah, it's an Oklahoma staple. Too many people burn the onions for me. You got to go with the Theta burger. We'll get you all hooked up on the burgers when you come down. Don't you worry about that.
I love that.
There's a good question. Jamie asked a great question in the chat. You know, from time to time, Tress knew to lay the wood on the returns. Can you hit? Are you a guy that's going to kind of run off to the sideline, or are you a guy that's confident to drop a shoulder and just level a returner?
What is more demoralizing to a returner than a punter laying him out?
Right. How many returners have you laid out in your career?
Let's see. I had one freshman year, 2 sophomore year, 2 junior year, and I think only 1 this year. So
you're reading them off like you got tattoos of them or something. My goodness.
No, I can remember them because I can remember standing up and the whole team getting crazy. You don't see a punter.
For my benefit, because I live here, so I would know these teams. Can I know what teams that happened with?
So down in Indy, so I don't remember the Culver ones off the top of my head. Down in Indy, let's see. I hit a kid on Concordia, Fort Wayne Concordia, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Did I make it? I I believe I made a tackle Warren Central.
Really?
I believe there's a sideline tackle. Obviously, Warren Central. I did not make a huge hit there. That one was more of just getting him down of a tackle.
Yeah, there would be problems if you did that.
Third, yeah, I did not. Decided just to shoelace tackle and get out of there. The third one would have been. It was my first tackle junior year, so it was a little me still trying to feel it out. I think it might have been Ron Colley.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the year. That's the game we beat them. Yeah, that didn't happen again, but I think those are the three teams where I made tackles.
Yeah, that's awesome. Here's another one. Looks like we lost Trav for a second. We'll see if we can pop back in here. Brady, what's your longest punt that you've ever had?
In game against Cathedral, I believe I had a 69 or 70-yard punt. And then out of game, I don't really measure my punts. The only out of game punt I know I've had measured would have been the All-American punt, which was like 62 to 64 yards. But in game, I hit a 69 or 70-yard punt in a rivalry game.
Nice.
That is that's crazy.
I will say they're kind of kicking us out of the old restaurant. I guess they close here shortly, but so I'm gonna hop off. But I'm glad I was able to hop in with you guys a little bit. Brady, thank you so much for coming on. It was a lot of fun chatting with you. I'm really looking forward to cheering you on and getting to meet you in person down in Norman. So we'll get linked up on the burgers and everything like that. And keep putting that left shoe on first, man. It seems to be working out great for you.
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely, man.
Right,
well, I'll catch up with you guys. Thanks for being understanding. I got some other things I got to lock up.
Yeah, you got a lot going on, dog. We appreciate you just even hopping on for real. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, man, let me know. Hit me up tomorrow when you find out about the car.
Yeah, I'll text you.
All right, later, bro.
All right, bye. All right. Yeah, Travis is a great contact to have. You'll enjoy getting to know him when you get down there. I'll also make sure you get into contact with our boy Tattoo Baker in the chat. He's kind of the resident. If you haven't seen, he makes a lot of great pictures and just media for a lot of.
Yeah, he photoshopped my graduation picture. Made me look a little weird.
Oh, did he? I didn't even see that tattoo.
No, he did a little Photoshop to mess with me, see if I could figure out what was wrong.
Ah, that's what's up. That's what's up. Nah, but he's another one that'll get you right. Hey, like I told you before, we try to stay to an hour, so we got about 5 minutes left here, guys. Any other questions that you guys want to ask? Go ahead and drop it down in the chat so we can kind of rapid fire them. One question, and Brady, you and I have already talked about this a little bit at the softball game. What is one thing that you are, I would say maybe one, most looking forward to, and then secondly, dreading heading into the summer workouts with Schmitty?
I'm looking forward to the Schmitty workouts. I'm dreading the Schmitty workouts. That's plain and simple. Like there's no in between. But to not use Schmitty workouts is the same. I'm looking forward to the nutritionist. I think that's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is those nutritionists helping me out. I'm dreading that Oklahoma heat starting to heat up throughout the summer with those hard conditioning days and lifts. I think just that heat's going to take me just a little bit longer to adjust to than the average person that probably they recruit from Florida or Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it definitely is a little bit more humid down there. Now, the weather's kind of similar to Indiana in the fact that it's sporadic. You'll very quickly find out, though, obviously in the spring, the tornadoes are crazy down there, so you got to make sure you stay safe. Here's a question from Derek Hamilton. Do you know who he's going to room with? Or do you know who you're going to room with?
Yeah, so I'm rooming with the long snapper that just committed 7 days ago, I think now. So
Yeah.
Ben Anderson's my roommate for freshman year.
Where's Ben from again?
Charlotte, North Carolina. He's from the Charlotte area. He went to a school named Latin. So that's what I'm rooming with freshman year.
That's pretty dope. And you're obviously living in Headington, across from.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I remember moving my sister in there 2 years ago, and obviously even visiting the campus multiple times and seeing Headington, but being able to actually walk in and tour the dorm and see what they have.
It's so
It's
nice.
it's pretty nice. It's pretty dope, and it's literally right across the street from the stadium. So
I can wake up 30 minutes before I have to be there, and I could take my sweet time. That's going to be nice.
Exactly. So you won't have to worry about hopefully rushing and being late to one of those Schmitty workouts, because if you do, you'll be on the stair step.
I promise you, I will never be late to a single thing. That's the last thing I have to do as a specialist. I'm not showing up late to nothing.
Man, I can't even imagine. I don't even want to imagine what has happened to people that have showed up late.
I won't be the one to tell you. It's not going to be me.
I love that. Hey, so it looks like Ian wants you to tell us about how your dad told you about Shatard. I think it's
my dad was at a Colts game, was sitting there. They were introducing all the state champions. 1A came out, 2A came out. They had like 5 kids on the field each. 3A came out with about 60 kids on the field. That was Shatard. 4A came out with less kids. 5A had about the same, and 6A had obviously 6A numbers. But 3A with about 60 kids on the field, my dad was like, what is going on there? Why does that state championship team have so many people, yet they're only a 3A school? And it was Shatard. My dad looked into it. It was a little smaller of a school, but their football team had been working well. Coaches met them, great guys. My dad was like, yeah, I think you'll like Shatard. So I kind of met with the coaches and did a little visit there as like an actual student. As I had to apply as an actual student, you can't recruit. I kind of started talking to the administration. They accepted me right away. My transcripts checked out. And then I talked to Coach Doyle, and I was like, yeah, I think Shatard's where I want to be. And after seeing 60 kids down on the football field for a state championship 3A team, my dad was like, that looks like a good school to be at.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is crazy seeing the type of football program Shatard has, even for a lot of people see Shatard and they think, oh, big school, but it's not crazy big.
No.
At all, really. If you look at it, they really in numbers wise are even on the lower end of a 2A school, but they play, especially with the football program and what they've been able to build there. You have a good team that can take you a long way.
Most of history.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, any other questions, guys, before we head out? Any last minute questions you want to throw in? Let me know before we get out of here. Brady, man, it's been amazing having you on. I know you're up in Winnemac right now, and if we get a chance to connect before you head out, great. If not, I completely understand. By and large, which is crazy to even say this, I'll probably see you in Oklahoma before I see you in Indiana again, because I'll be down there in in November visiting. My mom lives 10 minutes outside of Norman, and obviously my sister's still there, so I'm gonna bring my wife and daughter down, and we're gonna go to a game. I'll probably chop it up with Grayson, but I'll have to hit you up and see if I can't say what's up to you.
Yeah,
after the game.
For sure.
Let me see if we have one more. It doesn't look like it. Okay, well, like I said, guys, we've appreciated having Brady on the show. Make sure that you guys go ahead and follow him. Brady, go ahead and give your @ on Twitter, so anybody in the chat can go ahead and follow you.
At Brady Braun 4, just plain and simple. That's what it is. It's my Twitter.
At Brady Braun 4, great. Now we did have one that came in very at the end. Cam wants to know if you will get on the Hang Time vlog at some point.
I can't promise anything, but I'd assume, as I'll probably be around Gavin, as he's a freshman kicker and Gavin's been on a lot of them. I assume, in being another specialist, there's a likely chance that I'll be on a Hang Time vlog at some point.
I was gonna say I'm sure that Brady will be making an appearance on a Hang Time vlog. here
If
pretty
it
soon.
works out, maybe I become a regular on the Hang Time vlogs. I wouldn't mind.
Hey, we'll take that. It'll be fun to see you on there, man. And like I said, it's gonna be fun to see you get down there and get to do your thing, man. It's so unique to have another good punter there, and again, unique to have the connection that we do. Not only, as we've said, for those of you that are joining us late, being from Indiana and Indianapolis, and obviously you going to Oklahoma and meeting a big time Sooner fan, but even you knowing Adara and Ian. Really cool connection, bro. So glad to again get you on, and I think a lot of the people in the chat have already said they've really enjoyed you being here and everything you've had to say. And somebody already said, you got the wood going on in the background, so you're already one of their favorites. Man. But without further ado, man, we'll see the rest of you guys here next week, same time, 9 p.m. Central Time. JP and Trav show. Me and Trav will be back. We'll still deciding if we're gonna have a guest on, if we're gonna go classic again. Like I told you guys in August, we will be having a sponsor that will kind of be directing where we're going in the season, which is going to be amazing for us. Nothing really is going to change, but just exciting things coming up. So stay tuned. And Boomer.
Sooner.